Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie, and today we're going to be designing a planner theme in a horizontal layout. I'll be creating the next week of June in my classic Happy Planner for Comic-Con, so come plan with me. And I've got this faux memo printer here ready to go, as well as these washi tapes I may use. I have these mild liners as well for some bullet points, and this sticker sheet I made on my computer all ready to go. Okay, we're going to go real quick through this process because I'm going to go ahead and cut out the individual items so that I can use those as stickers on my sheet. So what I did is I searched for comic book items, basically comic book covers for the most part, and then a couple of other smaller items like logos and such. I also looked for wallpapers that had comic book covers in them because I knew those would be high resolution images and would have a lot of comic book covers. So basically the top half of the sticker sheet I made is those wallpapers put together, and then I grabbed a few logos and things. I also made some colorful boxes using another wallpaper I found in a black and white comic book theme, and used that as like a shaded background. I kind of dropped the opacity on it and made a shaded background with the comic book theme. Try to add in a little bit of fun there, and just outlined those boxes with either black, red, or yellow. And I made those boxes about 1.5 inches square. So that should work out pretty well on my horizontal in a classic size. And now I am trimming out those wallpapers I mentioned before. Since the wallpaper had a bunch of smaller comic book covers all in one wallpaper, I couldn't really blow these up too large. So the smaller ones all came from the wallpaper, and then I grabbed 3 or 4 individual ones that I put in at a bit of a higher resolution that I just grabbed off of Google Images. So, like you can see here, I'm speeding this up quite a bit this week because not only did I take my time with the cutting and everything, I also took my time with the design. So, just want to keep this fun and bright and not super slow. But yeah, so I think we've got all the items pretty much ready. I did do one other step, which was to find that comic halftone gradient look. That's what that dot pattern is. So I did find something, and then I added it both to the label paper as well as to my foam memo printer so I could get some clear stickers in case I wanted to layer that over things. Okay, so let's try to figure out how we want this layout to look. I'm going to start off with the idea I had in my mind, which was to do a comic book border, if you will, all around the spread using these little comic books. I am concerned that I don't have enough of them to cover all the edges, so let's maybe just stick with the side edges for now and see if I can make that work. I've left the backing on all the stickers for now, just so it'll be a little bit easier to maneuver around while I figure things out. And then I have this red and yellow washi that I think I want to pull in here, so we'll play around with that. I decided against the superhero washi, which I love, but I felt like it was just a little too busy with the comic books already kind of busy on their own, so I think focusing on the red and the yellow solid colors will give your eye a little bit of a break from all of the chaos in the comic books. I'm just trying to figure out how I want to work those in. Trying some different things. The left-hand side is always a little bit tricky when I do side borders because it always runs into the day text. So I could do a few different things. I tried just more of a random look, and then also this organized kind of staggered look going down the page, which I think looks neater but not cooler, if you know what I mean. So I don't know if that's going to work, and it covers up all the days. So I think even though that looks a little bit more uniform, I didn't like it. So we're going to go a different way. And I was going to try it around the page, but I think I'm going to go back to the wax paper and use that so that I can play around a bit more with how this is going to look. This spread did take me way longer than I expected, mainly for this side because I was trying to work around the days but also make it look cute, which is more challenging than you'd think. I thought that maybe I would be able just to angle the comic books a certain way and make it look good, just a little bit altered for those days. But no, it just really wasn't as cute as the right-hand side turned out to be. Which is why I start tinkering with it a bit more at the end of the video, which you'll see. And which is why I had to speed this up, because I had a good layout and then I was tinkering. So that's how it usually works with me, especially when things aren't going exactly how I planned and I have to kind of work it out as I go. So now I'm using the clear foam memo sticker that I made with that halftone gradient, and I'm cutting it up mainly into fourths. I made a smaller one and then a larger one, and I'm going to just pull those in, I think maybe in the corners to start and see how that looks, just again to add a little bit of texture, even though we really do have a lot going on with all of the comic book visuals here. And then I wanted to try to bring in those larger comic book stickers that I made, but I don't know, it was starting to feel a little bit like too much, just too much. So I put those back, and I'm going back to the dot pattern there and adding those into the corners like I mentioned. Playing around a lot with those focus boxes, trying to figure out where I want those on the spread and how to balance a spread. Really can get pretty tricky, unfortunately. I decided that what we have there is good enough. Let's go ahead and try and lay out the right-sided border here with these smaller comic books. Trying to mix up the color a little bit. There's some strong blue, red, yellow covers in these, as well as some that are very muddled and lots of color on them. So just trying to vary which ones are next to each other, give a nice contrast between the comic books that are touching. And I almost didn't use this red one, so I'm glad I pulled that in. Now trying to figure out how this washi tape is going to work here on the edge. Something I didn't really work out ahead of time. I was lining up the comic books to the edge of the page, but then I was laying the washi tape on the edge of the comic book. So it was actually off the page in reality. So when I go to move this to the page, I have to make some adjustments. I think I'm going to bring in a little bit more of this dot pattern in and around the main areas. Mostly within the focus boxes, I think, just trying to get a good combination of those with the focus boxes. I need to be careful laying over the clear sticker onto the boxes because then that takes up usable space from the box. So many of them I ended up laying the box on top of the clear sticker just so I could use the full box in case I needed to. But there's a couple that I got creative with in the end, as you'll see, where I lay a bit of the dot pattern on top, and that worked out pretty well. And again, just trying to find a good balance of things. I don't know. I was super indecisive, unfortunately, which is why I sped this up so much. but we're getting there. We're getting close. Let's go ahead and start moving things over, and then we can make some final decisions. We need to make sure that these pretty much stay right where they are because they are wrapping around the days. So we'll go ahead and make sure they're stuck to the washi tape to help us move things over. And here's where I figured out, oh yeah, that the washi tape would actually have to be pushed in order to still be on the page. And when I did that, I realized that I would have covered all the day workarounds that I'd made with those comic books. So I ended up taking off the washi tape and then putting the books down where I had them originally and then repositioning the washi tape after that. And as you can see, because of those modifications, the bit of the comic books that is showing is pretty small on this side. Try to work in as much of the extras as I could to try to fluff up the edges. Also gonna lay in that dot pattern in and behind those stickers. Just kind of gives that seamless off the page look. Let's go ahead and move over some of these boxes now, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that yellow washi. I actually really like how these boxes turned out. I used, I think, a 20% opacity of a black and white comic book image, and that was just enough so you can see it, but not too distracting, I felt. So if you're creating something like this, it was about 20%. And now I'm going to lay in that yellow washi and just decided to layer it on top of the comic books and the red washi, just a little bit of an overlap. I really liked the red and the yellow next to each other, so I wanted to repeat that. Just going to go ahead and lay in the right side here, which has a lot more of those comic books showing because I kind of knew what I was doing at this point and didn't have those day headers to work around. Just going to go ahead and trim off the edges. Try to save anything that I can. Start laying in some of those other elements. I'm going to drop this guy in right here on the bottom and then start working in the rest of those focus boxes. Just trimmed off a little bit of the excess there so that I wouldn't run into my usable space. And now I'm going to layer up this Comic-Con logo with the box, but then I changed my mind. I'm actually going to Comic-Con on Friday, so I thought maybe I should put the logo on Friday instead of at the bottom, which is more of a generic placement. So we'll see what I can do here. I do like the Comic-Con logo there at the top with the yellow box. I think that kind of works. And I am going to Comic-Con on Thursday as well, but not on the inside, just to do the outside stuff. So that kind of works. The yellow boxes would be like the highlight boxes for Comic-Con stuff. So yeah, that worked out. And just going to reposition that logo so it's centered on that dot grid pattern. I'm going to lay in some highlighted bullet points here, just using the yellow highlighter, I think. I'd pulled yellow and blue in case I wanted to bring in more of that blue color, but I think I'm just going to stick with the yellow on this. If I'd had a red highlighter, I would bring it in, but the red that I have is not really a true red, which I feel like you really need on the comic book elements. So we'll just save that for another time and work with just the yellow. And now I'm trying to beef up the sides like I mentioned, and what I did was use the cut off elements from the left side on the right because they were cut the right way to fit in. And there's a lot more of those, but I didn't have really much from the right side to add to the left. So what I ended up doing is taking the extra small comic books that I had and trying to work those in where I could. Again, still trying to maintain the day headers so that they remained readable. This was a little bit janky on this side, I will say, just because I was trying so hard not to cover those days. So the balance is a little bit funky, but I still think it came out pretty cute in the end, just not quite what I had envisioned originally. And you can see I'm adding in just like full comic book stickers there, just kind of shoving them in, and so some feel a little bit more balanced than others. And then we have those weird areas where there's like nothing next to the headers, so I don't know. You do what you gotta do. But we're getting close to the end here. Just gonna put in a few more of these items. And once I'm done with that, you guys, we will be done, friends. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Bye.